some women and children were just killed by militiamen and everything. So it was a sad story there, and Weisberger built 2 villages, or well, 3 villages. They started out with Schoenbrunn, and then Ganeda Hutton, and all these villages had different groups of Indians in them. So that's enough about that one, I think. And this one here was the War of 1812. You don't hear much about General Winchester. He was from Tennessee, I believe. He was captured by the Indians going out to his troops. He was staying with a fellow in that little house back there, a Frenchman, and the British surprised him in the morning. It was in the middle of winter, and these Indians captured him, and they got his horse and everything, and they're presenting him to the British general there, and they call that the Battle of River Raisin, where a lot of the Kentuckians were killed there because they were surprised, and there was really a lot of them killed. And I have this on the website for the National Guard of Kentucky because that's part of their history down there, and it was a neat one to paint. I got the picture of General Winchester from a descendant of him, and some of the other characters I had to make up, but that is a portrait that I used to paint him. So some of these are fairly authentic when you get down to getting the real portraits of the people that took place there. Okay. The death of Malunta is the next one there. This happened up close to Bellefontaine, Ohio. He had a village there, which a number of Shawnees had, and this is Logan, General Logan from Kentucky, and Simon Kenton riding up, and this is all documented in his histories. And they had captured some Indians there, and the old fellow with the white hair was Malunta. He was the big man of the Shawnees, and he had an American flag there with 15 stars flying and everything that he was given at a treaty over at Fort Finney. And that was his protection, and he had a piece of paper in his hand there that told that he was a friend to the whites and peaceful. And these Kentuckians hated Indians so much that they surrounded him, and the one guy you can see is holding the tomahawk up. He was involved in the Battle of Blue Licks down in Kentucky, and he dared everybody to go after the Shawnees down there, and they all got massacred, and he was really mad about it. So he asked this chief if he was at Blue Licks, and he said, yeah, and he just took a tomahawk and busted him right in the head and killed him. And the Shawnees really got mad because all their warriors and everything were going hunting at that time, and it was a sad thing. So I thought that had to be recorded to tell people what really happened. And that hangs in the Logan County Museum up at Bellefontaine. If you ever get in there, you can see it in person there. Yeah, the death of Leatherlips. This thing is going crazy over in Columbus, Ohio. There's a fellow who's written a couple of books over there about this, and he's got that painting, and he's got one of Bill Moose, another Wyandotte over there, and he's talked to the Quester group over there and the Daughters of the American Revolution, and it's been all over Columbus. He puts these books together and by hand, and he sells them over there for about $20, I think, and he's got my picture of Tar, he and all the Wyandottes in there and everything, and he goes around and gives talks. And by the way, I appreciate you bearing with me. I don't normally talk. This is probably my second time I've ever been talking to anybody other than my wife, so I don't know how these microphones work or anything. But anyhow, this picture was Leatherlips. He signed the Greenville Treaty, and Tecumseh and the Prophet was trying to stir things up, and he wouldn't go along with him. He stayed with his pledge, and they sent over Roundhead, a Wyandotte, and some other Indians over here to kill him, and they accused him of witchcraft and had a little trial, and they made him go out there, and they had the grave dug and everything, and they beat him over the head after he went through the ceremony of singing his death song and everything. They tried to trade that horse to save his life, and there was a fellow that knew him real well that started the church that this fellow belongs to over there that's writing all the books about him, and they tried everything to save his life. But when an Indian made idea up like that, you couldn't change their mind, and so they did kill him, and I just thought he should be remembered too. And there's a big stone face statue over there, and his gravesite is over there. The fellow that's writing these books, his family saved Leather Lip's gravesite, or we wouldn't even know where he's buried, but there's a monument over there where his gravesite is on Route 33, I think it is, right out of Dublin. And it was kind of neat to be part of that history. He's really got things going over there now with Leather Lip, and there's a golf course that Nicholas put right on the land that this chief was on, and they call it the Curse of Leather Lips because it rains every time they have their tournament over there. So if you ever hear the Curse of Leather Lips, this is the picture of what happened and why the curse is on. Okay, we don't have to go through all these, but this one right here is close to home, this John Johnston's Indian Agency home. That's up at Piqua, Ohio, and they restored that, the state did, and it's a nice place to go. They got a spring behind the house, but he would have Indian councils there and everything. John Johnston, he was the Indian agent for this area, and at one time there was about 10,000 Indians on that property, and I thought it'd be neat to show it like it was in the old days with the Indians having their councils there. And there's some important people on there too. Governor Meigs is on there, and John Johnson, the interpreter, and I think Morrow's back there in the corner, and a lot of the Indian chiefs. So I just painted the way it looked before they restored it. It looks a little different now, but I thought it would be neat to have a painting of that. Okay. That's the Greenville Treaty picture. If you haven't seen it, I didn't paint that particular one. That's Howard Chandler Christie's. He was a famous artist here in Ohio, and that was the picture that inspired me to be a painter. I just thought that was kind of a neat painting with all the Indians and the soldiers there and the old fort in the background. They have a nice display up there now. Someone made a whole big model of the fort, and I have about 4 paintings up there. They used to have them intermixed with the museum there, but they've taken them out and put them in a different room now. But they have the Annie Oakley and Lowell Thomas and a lot of stuff up there, and it's a nice museum to go through. Okay, the next one there, Lockery's Defeat. This was kind of a famous thing that nobody ever painted. I think probably I'm the only painter that ever painted it. But Clark was going down the Ohio River, and he was having trouble getting men to go help him. They wanted to go down to Vincennes and up that way and take Detroit from the British. And Lockery was a fellow from Pennsylvania, and he had a lot of militiamen there. He got about 100 of them to follow, and he got there too late to catch up with Clark, so he started down the Ohio River, and they were sending notes back and forth. And Joseph Brant, who was a Mohawk and had a band of Indians waiting on them, and they were about starving to death because they didn't get in on the supplies or anything. You see that buffalo laying there. They saw this along the bank. There was buffalo around here at this time, and this happened at Lockery's Creek, right on down where the casinos are now in Indiana there. We drive across it a lot of times when we go down there. And anyhow, they shot this thing, and they had horses with them and everything, and they got off to get some food, and they ambushed him from these hills up here and everything. And Lockery's the fellow laying there, and he was a Mason, and Brant's the guy in the red military jacket there, and he found that on his person, and he's given a dirty the devil for killing him because there was a rule that you didn't kill another Mason, I guess. And that was the thing that the Masons always talk about when they talk about this picture. But it was a pretty rugged thing. They killed most of them and took a lot of them captive, and there's a story about one of the captives that lived through and fought again at Fort Recovery Battle, but that's another painting. Okay, the one up there in the corner, Murder of Cornstalk. This was another chief that tried to keep the peace, Cornstalk, and he went over to warn him. This was down at Point Pleasant, Ohio, and he went over to the fort to warn him that he couldn't control his braves anymore because they kept doing things to him, and they took him captive on a peace mission like that. And then his son in the red leggings there came over to see what was happening.